Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast. Today on the pod, an interview with somebody really special to me, somebody that I used to work with back when I was a radio announcer at Brisbane's B105. I love saying that. I feel like I've still got it. Maybe I'm dreaming, but I feel like I've still got it. Robin Bailey. Robin Bailey was doing the afternoon show with Dean Kesby on Brisbane's B105 in the early 2000s. When I showed up as the morning's announcer, Jamie Dunn, who recently passed away, was doing breakfast with Ian Skippen and Penny Cooper. And I just loved being with some of these fabulous people, and Robin is one of them. If you don't know Robin's story, she's had a tumultuous but highly successful and wonderful radio career. During the last 25 years, her husband, Tony, died by suicide. She married again, only to lose her second husband to cancer. She's raised 3 boys and still maintains her brilliant and award-winning radio show and radio personality and all those kinds of things. And she's just released an autobiography called Flamingos Aren't Born Pink, my family's story of healing, hope, and living life in colour. I feel like I'm going to cry just doing the intro. I read the book over the last few weeks, loved reading about my friend and all that she's been through and all of her insights and all that she has to share. And she's been so generous to jump on the pod and have a chat with me today about love, about loss, and about raising boys. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. It's next on the Happy Families podcast. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast, where you get real parenting solutions every single day. This is Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. My name's Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm a dad to 6 kids, author of, 10 or 11 books or something like that, with a brand new book about boys coming out soon. You can pre-order at booktopia.com.au now. Today I'm joined by Robin Bailey, a friend of mine for the last 25 or more years. We have not talked or been in touch nearly enough, Robin, but it's honestly, it's such a privilege, such a delight to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. And if I close my eyes, I can hear you saying the time and temperature on B105.
Oh, my goodness. We worked together for about a year in 2002-ish, 2003-ish, somewhere around there. And I used to love spending time with you and Dean. You were such a great, dynamic, delightful afternoon duo, and it's a privilege to have you here today. I want to talk about that time for just a sec, because Kylie and I came over to your home and we met the family. We spent some time with you and Tony. He gave me some of his Smart Men products so that I could try the shaving cream, and he was really working on that business. But a short time after that, he passed away. He took his life. Can you talk a bit about that time and losing Tony? And also, can you talk about how you tell your 3 young sons that their dad has died?
Around that time, we were separated under the same roof. Things had not been going well for a really long time. His business was a major contributor to the pressure. He had attempted twice before, but they were never going to kill him. And we had 3 kids, and they were 9, 12 and 14, and they were aware of stuff going on. So it was really, really, really difficult. And then he did what he did. He dropped the boys off, Finn, my eldest, to his school bus, Lewin and Piper to their primary school, and went and bought a loaf of bread, and then went home and gassed himself in his beloved Mustang, which he'd built with a friend and my children. And it was interesting because I was working, it was a Monday, the 1st of September 2014, and we had decided to separate on the weekend. So he would have one weekend and I would have one weekend. And this was his first weekend of having the boys and me being away. And I was nearly home and I got a phone call from one of his 5 support people saying they hadn't heard from him. And could I get home? And I said yes. And then I had another phone call saying it's bad. And so I pulled up and the garage door was opening. There was smoke billowing out. You know, he was pulled from the car by one of his friends and CPR and all that sort of stuff. He was already dead. There was nothing. He could not be brought back. But because of my media, and this sounds so arrogant, but it really was a concern that the word would get out and I hadn't got to my kids. So I organised for the 2 younger boys to be picked up before the school bell. I just was so aware that I had to tell them. And then I sat them down, and my father died when I was 11 of a heart attack and at home, and my mum woke me. And I remember that, that moment of being told. So I knew how profound it was going to be for them. And so I thought, I have to do this quickly. So I sat them down and I said, Dad has died. He's taken his own life. And, or words to that effect, I wrote him in the book. But the boys' reactions, my youngest didn't really, he was a bit bewildered. My middle one got really angry, and my eldest just was devastated. At 9, 12 and 14, how do you have what does that mean?
Yeah. How do you process it? What do you do with it? You kind of just reach out for some normality, some regular life stuff. I really appreciate you sharing that, Robin. I would imagine one of those things that no matter how much time goes by, it sits with you. A few years later, you're in Africa. You've gone away on a family trip. It's just you and the 3 boys doing some things that are a little bit risky, a little bit dangerous, but you're having the trip of your life. And you go into, by their choice, the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah.
Talk about that conversation, why you had it and how it played out.
Okay, so it was the Christmas after. So he died in the September,
right, okay.
And we hadn't really had the big conversation. So I just sat them down and I said, you can ask me anything. And they did. And so I think what I wanted to do was give them the opportunity to ask the questions that they were curious about. And they were curious about a lot. And a lot of it was timelines. And it was also in that time that I realized how much they actually knew. I think as parents, we try and pretend that we're adulting and they're just living their life, but they knew their father wasn't in a good way. They knew that the marriage wasn't great. They knew, and things that I now, if I'd had my time over, I would have sat them down while he was alive and filled them in. But, I didn't think they could cope or they were too young, whereas actually they saw it. They saw it and it didn't make sense. And then this catastrophic thing happened and it made sense. But then they also had questions about, was that why this happened at this time? Is that why you guys stopped going together to the football trainings? As a parent, okay. No, so they were joining dots that they needed clarity on. And that's what I was able to give.
Today, I'm joined by Robin Bailey. She's raised 3 boys and still maintains her brilliant radio show. And she's just released an autobiography called Flamingos Aren't Born Pink, my family's story of healing, hope, and living life in colour. Because of our time today, I want to fast forward. You accidentally meet and fall in love with a guy that you'd known decades earlier from radio. He was married. You had no affinity with him. You were an up-and-comer. In the end, you guys meet and fall in love, and there's just this beautiful relationship that develops. And during the course of the relationship, he receives a cancer diagnosis. It's terminal. And the 2 of you decide that you're going to get married in spite of knowing exactly how this thing's going to end. And the wedding day sounds like it was bliss. And you write, as you talk about this most perfect day, he was quiet for a moment, his fingers trailing through my hair. I just kept thinking, he said, this memory has to last your lifetime. I'm not going to lie. I'm getting weepy now. I read that and I just burst into tears. I'm laying on my bed and I'm sobbing going, oh my goodness, this guy and this whole scenario. And you know where this is going and he knows where this is going. And he says that to you. Can you talk a bit about the decision to marry, knowing that your 3 sons are going to farewell a second husband at some point? This is not going to end well. Walk through that for me just a little.
The marriage part of it was the no-brainer because the grief was there. The diagnosis had happened. He was living with us in Brisbane by then. And there's a whole story behind that, which if you want to know, you can read the book.
And it's worth it. It's a great story.
It became imperative. And I think the one thing I really want people to take away from this book, no matter the tragic situations that you will read about, it's got to be love and hope. Love and hope, love and hope. And I think what the marriage did was become this amazing party. Again, I've got goosebumps. It continues to be the greatest weekend of my life because when you take off everything and the restrictions around it and just go, we are going to party and we are going to have the best time, all of us, his kids, my kids, our friends, for this weekend. And it coincided with my 50th. So we had a birthday celebration on the Friday and got married on the Saturday. And it was huge. It was this great, amazing party. We had maracas and tambourines that people were, clapping along with the music, and as we're walking in, and the kids were so much a part of that. Cancer is terrible, and terminal cancer is awful, and the last breath in that person is going to be devastating. But the journey can be full of love and full of celebration, and it was joyous. It was so fun.
I don't want to go through the entire book, so I'm going to wrap it there. But Robin, flamingos aren't born pink. I would summarize it as follows. This book is a celebration of the richness of life. There's so much to be grateful for. At no point did I read it and feel, oh, poor Robin, in spite of the tragedy.
Good.
The whole time I was reading, I was thinking, this is how we're supposed to do it. We're supposed to love deeply and suffer greatly and experience the richness that comes from everything that both of those things entail. And I got so much from it. If there were one or two things that you would say to parents who are raising boys themselves, especially in a climate that's not always kind to parents of boys or to boys themselves, what would you say?
I would say, number one, that male role models are imperative. Really imperative. I write this in the book, and this was the other piece of advice that stuck with me. The head of psychology at the Mater said to me, a child of a same-sex suicide parent is 10 times more likely to suicide. Your job is to keep them alive. So how do I counter this instinctive masculine thing that has happened to them to take it off the table? And my solution for that was to put good men in.
Yeah, such important advice. I hear from parents all the time who'll say, I just don't know how to find those good men, or there are so many trust issues, so many, and yet you did it. We could talk all day, and it's been so lovely to catch up with you. Thank you for sharing so generously. Thank you for writing what you've done. The book is called Flamingos Aren't Born Pink by Robin Bailey. Rob, been a treat to have you.
Yeah, thank you. We need to do it again.
The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Mim Hammonds provides our additional research and admin support. For more info to make your family happier, check the show notes. You can find everything you need about Flamingos Aren't Born Pink in the show notes. Or visit happyfamilies.com.au.